Rich, bringing you back in here, the debate's coming, but, there is a lot of advertising money that's about to hit as well out there.
Oh, absolutely. And we're in a scenario where there are essentially seven states. You go to the Sun Belt, you go to North Carolina, Georgia, then over in the West, you have Arizona and Nevada. Then you go up to the Rust Belt. You have those former blue wall states of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Maybe the Democrats can reach for Florida. Maybe Republicans can reach for New Hampshire. So we're in this weird scenario where essentially 42 Americans in 42 states are sitting in the electoral sidelines watching as the candidates essentially just about run for governor of Wisconsin. It's really a fascinating phenomenon. Go back to 1992, for example, and you had about 20 to 25 states that were actually in play. And for that matter, it's also an interesting scenario. If you go back to 1976, Jimmy Carter won about a third of the conservative vote, and Gerald Ford won about a fourth of the liberal vote. Now we're in a scenario where last time around, 94% of Democrats voted for Joe Biden, 94% of Republicans voted for Donald Trump. We're going to see a very similar scenario to that this time around. And I think the pick of Tim Walz is an interesting take on the heart of Vice President Harris. Because one thing he does with his background in terms of being a hunter, being a former football coach, being a former military person, is he appeals to those rural voters. He's got in many respects, he's got the personality of Hubert Humphrey and the politics. And the personality of Bill Clinton, kind of an amalgamation, if you will. The question is, will he be able to define himself that way? And how will the Republicans succeed in trying to say that he's just a kind of out-of-touch liberal? It's going to be a fascinating phenomenon in this race.
So, Pete, as we wrap up this week, a good week for Democrats. They certainly think it's been a good week. Where do we sit in this race as you see it, Pete?
Well, I think we're definitely going to see a bump for the Democrats coming out of this. I think what struck me comparing the Democrat and Republican conventions was really how traditional the Democratic convention was. When you look at the roster and the schedule, it was really politicians and pop stars. When you look at the Republican convention, there were a lot more everyday Americans. The memories that I have of the Republican convention were the Gold Star families, was that parent from New York City whose son was murdered. When I even look at tonight, the most memorable thing about tonight was really that panel around gun violence with those 5 victims. Those were those kind of stories of everyday Americans that I think the Republicans really did such a good job of profiling. Those are the kinds of stories that I think most people are going to remember from these two conventions.
All right, Pete, great to have you here. Leslie, Kyron, Julian, Tom, Rich, did I get everybody? Molly, it's been wonderful being with you too over this week, Molly. Really enjoyed our